For nearly 25 years, Evelyn Carter had been the quiet force behind the success of Northbridge Logistics Group, keeping its massive transportation network operating smoothly while senior executives accepted awards and investors celebrated record profits without ever realizing how much they depended on her. Working from a small office hidden behind the company's operations center, she managed delicate supply chains, resolved impossible scheduling problems, and built lasting relationships with shipping firms, warehouse managers, customs officials, and freight carriers across the nation. Whenever millions of dollars worth of cargo faced costly delays, Evelyn was the person everyone trusted to solve the crisis. Unlike the polished executives who thrived on presentations and motivational speeches, she believed true success came from years of experience, endless patience, and answering the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning when a truck became stranded in the middle of a snowstorm. She knew every contract by heart, every emergency contact, every overlooked clause, and every promise made through decades of honest business, earning the unwavering respect of veteran drivers and longtime partners who valued her judgment far more than colorful reports or sophisticated software. Everything changed when the company's founder stepped away from daily operations and handed control to his ambitious nephew, Nathan Brooks. Young, confident, and armed with prestigious business degrees, rather than real experience on loading docks or warehouse floors, Nathan believed technology could replace decades of practical knowledge overnight. He arrived surrounded by expensive consultants, modern management slogans, and an aggressive plan to transform every department as quickly as possible. Experienced employees were dismissed as outdated, while those who agreed with his ideas advanced rapidly regardless of their understanding of the business. Within only a few weeks, Northbridge felt like a completely different company. Familiar faces disappeared, trusted procedures were abandoned, and seasoned managers suddenly found themselves reporting to newly hired supervisors who confidently spoke about efficiency despite having almost no operational experience. Evelyn remained focused on her responsibilities, quietly preventing costly mistakes behind the scenes while listening to endless promises about artificial intelligence, automated negotiations, and digital systems that completely ignored the complicated human relationships responsible for keeping thousands of daily deliveries moving without interruption. The growing tension reached its highest point one rainy afternoon as Evelyn finalized an extremely sensitive transportation agreement that would secure the delivery of critical medical supplies across several states for years to come. In the middle of the negotiations, Nathan casually walked into her office and criticized the appearance of her crowded desk instead of asking about the multi-million-dollar contract she was carefully protecting. Although frustrated, Evelyn stayed calm and respectfully explained that every document spread across her workspace represented active agreements safeguarding the company's operations. Nathan simply smiled, insisted that every important file belonged in the cloud, and walked away convinced he understood the business better than the woman whose quiet expertise had kept Northbridge running successfully long before he had ever entered the executive boardroom. As autumn settled in, the company's busiest season of the year arrived, bringing overwhelming pressure to warehouses across the entire network. As the busy holiday season reached its peak, Northbridge Logistics faced its most demanding months of the year. Warehouses overflowed with holiday merchandise, life-saving medical equipment, food shipments, and industrial supplies that had to reach customers without delay. Evelyn spent countless hours reviewing contracts, monitoring carrier schedules, and resolving critical problems before anyone else even realized they existed. While she quietly kept operations running, Nathan devoted most of his time to executive meetings, leadership seminars, and motivational presentations instead of understanding the complex logistics that kept the company functioning every day. Late on a Thursday afternoon, every department manager received an invitation to attend a mandatory executive appreciation gala at an exclusive country resort. The event was scheduled for the very weekend when several high-value international shipments were expected to arrive. Evelyn politely declined the invitation, explaining that she would be overseeing the customs clearance of temperature-sensitive medical equipment whose delay could put hospitals at risk and violate important contractual commitments. She wished everyone an enjoyable evening, but made it clear that her professional responsibilities had to come first. The next morning, something felt different the moment Evelyn entered headquarters. Conversation stopped as she walked across the operations floor, and employees who normally greeted her avoided eye contact while pretending to focus on their computer screen. When she reached her desk, her computer rejected her login credentials. Before she could call the IT department, Nathan entered the office accompanied by the Human Resources Director and 2 security officers whose uneasy expressions suggested they were deeply uncomfortable with what was about to happen. Speaking with practiced confidence, Nathan announced that the company was restructuring its leadership culture and claimed that Evelyn no longer reflected the collaborative vision Northbridge wanted to promote. According to him, adaptability, enthusiasm, and fresh thinking were now more valuable than decades of experience. Evelyn listened quietly without interrupting. When Nathan finished speaking, she calmly reminded him that she personally managed hundreds of active agreements and served as the primary contact for countless transportation partners who trusted her judgment. Nathan dismissed her concerns without hesitation, insisting that every employee was replaceable and that modern systems could easily absorb her responsibilities. Refusing to give him the dramatic confrontation he seemed to expect, Evelyn simply removed a framed photograph of her late father from her desk, packed a few well-worn notebooks into her bag, handed over her identification badge, and sincerely wished everyone in the room success before walking toward the elevator with remarkable dignity. As she drove away from the headquarters beneath a cold gray sky, she realized she had not truly lost the foundation of her career. The relationships, trust, and decades of institutional knowledge that kept the company running had never belonged to the office. They had always belonged to her. Instead of returning home, Evelyn stopped at a quiet neighborhood cafe where she had often met independent freight operators after difficult negotiations. Ordering a strong cup of black coffee, she opened her personal laptop and carefully reviewed the records and agreements she had legally kept for her own files over the years. Then, with calm determination, she began drafting a respectful notification explaining that she was no longer part of Northbridge Logistics. Evelyn's message explained that she was no longer employed by Northbridge Logistics Group and therefore could no longer act as the authorized relationship manager for any existing partnerships. She politely encouraged every organization to follow the continuity clauses already included in their contracts before approving future shipments, extending credit, or making additional financial commitments. The replies began arriving within minutes. Longtime partners expressed genuine surprise at her departure and immediately asked who would now coordinate the complex transportation decisions that had always required Evelyn's approval and careful oversight. Because many contracts required vendors to verify that a qualified replacement had been officially appointed before releasing valuable cargo or extending commercial credit, warehouses temporarily suspended outbound shipments. Freight carriers postponed departures until proper documentation could be confirmed, while customs brokers requested additional verification, creating a completely legal chain reaction that gradually slowed operations across the company's nationwide network without anyone violating a single contractual obligation. Back at Northbridge headquarters, Nathan and his executive team suddenly found themselves overwhelmed by questions they had never expected. Trusted business partners politely refused to move forward until they received the documentation and assurances required under their own agreements. Every attempt to speed up the process only revealed how heavily the organization had depended on one experienced professional whose knowledge had never been properly documented or transferred. The situation forced senior leadership to confront the enormous difference between polished presentations and genuine operational expertise built through decades of trust, consistency, and personal relationships. As customer complaints increased and financial losses continued to grow because of delayed deliveries, several members of the board ordered an immediate internal investigation. The review uncovered that years of critical institutional knowledge had been concentrated in a single employee, while leadership repeatedly ignored recommendations to establish proper succession planning and knowledge-sharing systems. Nathan's aggressive leadership style, combined with his decision to dismiss highly experienced personnel without fully understanding the responsibilities they carried, quickly became the central focus of the investigation. The findings ultimately led to major leadership changes throughout the company and renewed recognition that innovation could never replace experience without careful planning. Several months later, Evelyn accepted a senior advisory position with another transportation company that genuinely valued her expertise. Instead of pushing experienced professionals aside, her new employer encouraged younger employees to learn directly from her, ensuring that years of practical knowledge would be passed on to the next generation. Meanwhile, Northbridge spent months rebuilding the partnerships it had damaged through poor leadership and short-sighted decisions. The entire experience became a lasting reminder that successful organizations are built not only through technology and ambitious strategies but also through trust, integrity, and the dedicated people working quietly behind the scenes to keep everything moving. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create inspiring and entertaining stories regularly, and your continued support helps us bring you even more meaningful content.